No, it's good to talk to you, Allan. Oh, so you start with a question, or shall I?
Absolutely a delight to talk to you too. I mean, I first just say that it's Tuesday, the 6th of February,
Yep.
and just after 8 in the morning. And we've had a bit of a chat, and I'd like to ask you the question of how did you get into, or more importantly, how do you fit in to the finance world?
Good, tough question to start. So, how did I get into it very quickly? My dad really wanted me to have a profession. We hadn't had professionals in our family. He was
Yes.
an immigrant from Belfast. So, going to uni was important and getting the right trade at university. So, I became an accountant. That was just the thing that I chose that I could get in there and do. That took me into banking because through accounting, joining Deloitte, seeing other industries, I ended up being a banker. Now, how do I fit in? Right? That's a bit of a yin and a yang story.
I'm interested in that one.
Yeah. And I don't fit in because of the technicalities of loving finance. Don't. Am I interested in finance? I'm interested because finance matters to people,
Yeah,
that angle. I can do the technical.
yeah,
I love it. I can do it. But I actually really found my way in loving the people. So I think, Allan, whatever industry I started in, I would have found my joy through the whatever that community was that
yes,
was working together on whatever the thing was. So
yeah.
I think I'd adapt. So am I a normal fit banker? Absolutely not. Have I done well in banking? I really have had a wonderful career. And now I work for one of Australia's oldest mutuals and I look after a little bank and health insurance. So again, financial services and
Yeah,
again, joy the people.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, if um, if I can ask you, um, what in that journey, because you've actually got an aptitude for one thing, and you've adapted to something else,
Yes. Yeah.
and brought the two together in a way that's really fulfilled you, which is
Yeah.
great, just a wonderful. As a neuroscientist, I look and go, isn't that a beautiful indication of what potential sits inside us that we don't get access to if we haven't experimented
Yeah. No,
and
good. Yeah.
gone where we wouldn't,
Mm.
might not normally gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's been the significant turning point for you in what did you learn, or where was it that you went, I've got this sorted and I'm really on track?
Oh, wow. Interesting. You know what? This is, I think, many, many years ago, 20 years ago, maybe
Yes.
more, a long time ago. I was sitting it was an investment banking meeting. The boss was talking about, oh, we've got to get more diversity in the industry, and I'm already socialized to investment banking. Socialization to that was, oh my God, we haven't got time for that. We're going to get on and get the next deal. But I also knew you got to keep the boss happy, right? So very quickly, very transactionally, I hired it was like a PR consultant, find me some mob out there that does something in diversity, and I can just try and find a quick solution and get back to the main job of doing deals. Anyway, it led me to a small organization that was stuck and it was trying to get mentoring programs to support women.
Yeah.
So I sort of latched onto that with for all the wrong reasons. But when I
Yes.
latched onto it, I could sort of start to learn what their purpose was, and there was sincere effort in wanting to drive women in their careers in the banking industry.
Yeah.
So long story short, I then sort of developed that into an organisation that's thriving today called Women in Banking and Finance. Now, why did that help me say I've got this? In the corporate construct, I didn't feel at that stage I had this. I could do transactions. I couldn't see myself as the boss. I couldn't see that.
Yeah.
Um, in Women in Banking and Finance, because I was leading that organisation, that was on the side of my desk after hours to build what it needed to build. I could see I've got this. If I can lead and do what I want, if I care about it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If I care, I can do. And so,
Doesn't care make a big difference.
yeah, yeah. So I think that was when I felt I had this. And I remember getting a performance review about that time. And my boss said to me at the time, you're a transactor, you're not a leader. And I thought, they don't know me. So just don't say anything. They don't know me. And I made sure, I thought there's no point changing when people have you profiled, best just to walk away, start fresh, and then bring that forward. So in the future, they'll see you as a leader, not just as a transactor. I didn't want to argue that toss with people who
Yeah.
are labelled. Anyway, it was all good. So that sort of that journey has always been with me, and my leadership journey really, I think, was very comfortable for me because I approached it by finding what I loved in what I was doing. So it wasn't I need to be a leader because here's what the textbook says. I didn't
Yes.
approach it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was the moment in that Women in Finance that you went, this is an important one?
Oh, how interesting. It was women in banking and finance. It made me think about what do women really need,
Yes.
and it changes over time. But there was a need to have conversations about things like meritocracy. There was
Yes.
needing to understand power, needing to understand the rugby field we were playing on, right, which has rules of engagement and how to do things, but we need to understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I suppose this is almost like if I could have been an anthropologist, it might have been perfect. So for me in women in banking and finance, it was then how on earth do we start to teach some of this
Yeah.
stuff? And this is where it did lead me, and we'll talk about that soon. It led me towards Steph.
Right.
Because how do you really find, there's no point having a platform and an organisation and a thesis about supporting women in the industry. But then you've got to work out what the heck is it and think more deeply
Yeah.
about it. And it's multi-layered, but my initial thoughts were the playground we're operating in, and this is all people in that particular industry, is constructed years ago by
Yeah.
certain types of men, and it's not about men, but it'd be the certain personas.
Yep.
And that's the construct that does exist. So if you want to be in our industry, there's certain things you've got to understand and agitate against so you can cause change
Yes.
to which places have changed a lot over 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a bit of a circular conversation there, Alan, but
Yeah.
hopefully
Now,
that's remotely interesting.
I could talk on that topic for a long, long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I once did a keynote address at a conference as a woman, and it
It's a
was
woman.
as a woman, it was one of the most liberating things I've ever done. Yeah, and
Fascinating.
to do it, it forced me to, I sit on the borderline. I'm a gay man, so I'm not your alpha Australian male.
Yeah.
But to do it, I needed to learn how to be a woman.
Yeah.
I watched television with Shirley Bassey and,
Wow.
women who and Barbara Streisand. I learned how to pull my hair back behind my ears with my middle finger.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it made me glaringly aware of stuff I'd never seen before
How
through the
interesting.
eyes of a male. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once I put a pair of stilettos on, I was just, Alan Parker was gone. Yeah.
How
And
fascinating. Yeah.
it was from an anthropological perspective,
Yeah.
it was the most extraordinary demonstration of how to make immediately large-scale, deep change in a
Yeah.
moment,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how often it takes us to step out of our usual and go way out
Mm.
to
Mm.
be able to go, wow, different to there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I'm fascinated to know that you had that background, that experience. You worked with Steph in the women
Yep.
in finance,
Yep.
and you're back in a program with her in a week's time.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
is it about Stephanie Burns and what Stephanie Burns does, but most importantly, how she does it,
Yeah.
that attracts you back?
Yeah.
Can I have a shot at that?
Yeah. It's fascinating. Steph imprints. Somehow she imprints on you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes teachers teach you things and you have to try and remember and you might try and learn and you can't recall. And there's something about Steph that when you need it in the future, there's something about that voice just comes,
Pops in.
it pops in, you go, yeah, got it. And there are lots and
Thanks.
lots of little things, but the main thing for me is Steph completely understands the human, right? So she completely
Concur.
understands the
I
human.
concur.
She
I
pays
concur.
great respect to the need to understand the human. And the way she just tells the stories that help you see yourself as a human, it's incredible. And when you can see you, you can also then start to see others.
How
And
delicious. How
it's
beautiful.
incredible. I
Wow.
remember one story, it was a little story. She talked about, if you see a little bird and it comes into the flat, you might panic. And I've done it myself, Allan, years ago, before I met Steph. A bird came into the house and I'm trying to chase it around the house and it's, and I can't catch it. I'm sort of scared to catch it because it might peck me. And then Steph said, if a little bird comes in or a bird comes in and it might be just wet and it might just need a break from something. So just ignore it, leave the door open, and you'll find that it will leave when it's ready. Anyway, so then I was
Beautiful
living
story.
in New Zealand a few years ago, and I'd always had this problem with the birds, little tiny sparrow, come into the study. And I learnt just to leave the door open, keep doing what I'm doing, and the bird would just go. There was no carry on around that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And how often that plays out in life all the time when we inject into
How
something, right?
applicable is that no carry on?
No carry on, right? The little bird had something it
Wow.
needed to do, and you had to respect it, just needed that space. That was one that's still, I love that story. Another little one is how many things we think about all the time, we don't action them, and takes up all that space in the brain.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm trying to get tasks done. Should I wait till the car's almost empty before I fill it up? Or do I just get in the habit of filling it up when it's half empty and then I never have to think about it again? Right? A simple story, but so important. You don't end up with the trauma of being stuck on the harbour bridge and you're out of petrol. And if you just had a habit that was a bit different, you wouldn't be in that spot ever. And
Yeah.
they're little stories, but very, very powerful. And one
Yeah.
of the most important ones for me on women in banking and finance, very specifically, was on power. The whole what you say, how your body feels matters so much. And the little thing of sitting around a negotiation table, which you probably know well in the work you do, but just putting the weight in the front of your foot, even sitting under a table, and how that changes the way you talk and the confidence you have and the way you present, because you've switched your power from being
Yes.
away from
Yes.
the issue
Yeah.
to forward. So
Yes.
many things, and they
Yeah.
just pop up when I need them, and serve me, right, and they're gold.
Yeah.
So
No,
and anyone I've exposed to Steph, and I've used Steph in the business, and it's made a heck of a difference to people
yeah.
personally as well as
Yeah.
professionally.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Christine, that's been delightful. May I ask you one final question?
Yes.
Would you allow me to do this and interview you again and continue the conversation?
Oh, I would really enjoy having that conversation with you, and it's been fun doing this. I really look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Thrilled that you'll be there. Look forward to seeing you.
Thanks, Allan.
Take
See
care.
you.
Thanks, Christine. Bye-bye.
Bye.